Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we're installing a dual function 40-inch light bar onto a Chevy Colorado. Let's get started. First thing you're gonna do, pop the hood. First thing we're gonna do is remove the torque screws on top. There's a total of 6 and it's a T15. Alright, since you still have that tool, there's the same type of screws from the inside fender. On the inside, we're going to remove, let me see how many we got. Okay, let's peek what's inside. So we peel the trim liner back. See if I can take one more out, if I have more room. There we go. Now you can really get in there and see the bolts that I'm removing. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use a 9/32. I believe it's the same thing as a 7mm to remove those 2 screws that are holding the bumper to the fender together. Typically, I like to start it off with a ratchet and then do it with my hands if I take the bit out, so there's not too much space in there. And here's the second one. So now these 2 pieces will, well, there's actually a third one, there's 3. Correction to the video, there's 3 bolts that we're taking out. There's one on the edge here that I didn't see. Okay, here's the third one. So now you can see that the bumper is separating from the fender. So we're gonna do the same thing on the passenger side. So just to summarize, these are the torque screws that we removed from the fender well. And these are the 3 screws that are holding the bumper to the fender. Now let's go to the passenger side and do the same thing. So now I'm underneath the vehicle and I'm going to remove the 7 bolts on each side and 3 in the middle in order to separate the valence from the bumper. Once again, it's 7 on the driver's side, 3 in the middle, and 7 on the passenger side. Next thing we're going to do is remove the 2 10mm bolts that are holding the middle of the grille. If you can go from the bottom, there's 2 holes, one on each side of the bumper, and we're going to have to reach it with an extension in order to take those bolts out. So I have my 10mm with an extension. I'm going to feed it through that opening and unscrew that bolt. So I got one out. And here's the second one. So we went ahead and removed the 3 extra bolts in the middle. So that's a total of 7 on the side, 7 on the other side, and 3 in the middle. And then we can remove the actual valence on the bottom, so that way it's not in the way. So we were trying to remove the bumper. We noticed that there's 2 more bolts that are holding. These are actually facing forward, not facing up like the other one, so we missed them. So there's 1 on each side. You got to remove those 2. And these should be the last 2. Here they are. I'm going to do the same thing on the driver's side. Now I'm on the driver's side and it's a bolt facing forward. There it is. Okay, the last 2 bolts are facing forwards and they're right next to the tow hooks. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them. It's a little bit awkward position. So just a correction in the video, there's 2 bolts that are facing forwards. All the ones in the bottoms we've taken out, and there's 2 on each side around the tow hooks. So I'm getting the last one out. There it is. So that's one. And alright, so the last one I'm going to take out is the inner bolt facing forward. That is on the inside of the hook. So let's do a quick recap of all the bolts we've taken out. There is 9 bolts that we've taken out on the bottom side, which release the valence as well as the bumper from the bottom of the vehicle. There's 3 in the middle, and there's 9 on the passenger side as well. So let's take off the grill. Okay, so the way I uninstalled that last bolt, now that I'm looking at it, it would have been easier if I just taken this large bolt out around the tow hook. This whole plate would have come off. So it would have been easier to take the plate off with the bumper as opposed to me getting my tool in there. But either way works. I removed the bolt facing forwards, but you could have just taken out this big bolt and then removed that front bumper with this plate. Alright, now that we have the grill off the vehicle, let's talk about the brackets that we're going to be using. These are the M&R brackets that house the 40-inch light bar. The light bar is going to sit in between these eyelids. So this is the mounting hardware for the light bar itself. And this is the hardware that's going to attach the M&R mount to the vehicle. The place where this is going to be mounted, let me show you on the vehicle itself. These push pins, number 1 and number 2, we're going to take out. We're going to slide our brackets underneath this plastic piece. And we're going to put the supplied hardware, which is a bolt and nut, to get it together. Now that we remove the push pin, we're going to grab the M&R mount, we're going to slide it in right behind the tab, and we're going to use the supplied hardware. We're going to put a bolt through, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to reach in behind it and put this nut. It is a little bit challenging. If you want, you can use the Scotch tape method. I just hold the nut with my fingers, and I'm going to thread it in. Okay. We're going to do the exact same thing on the passenger side. I'm going to slide the M&R bracket right in between, and we're going to put a bolt through. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to reach in behind it and put this nut. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and install the light bar itself on the M&R mounts. Okay, we're still going to be able to adjust it. There's a small rail here, so you can adjust the height. And then we're going to do the same thing on the passenger side. I'm going to put the wire through this cutout, so that way it doesn't interfere. Now that you like the alignment of the light bar itself, you can go ahead and mount the top bolts. Perfect. And now we can complete the project by putting the grill back on, the bumper, and doing the wiring. Now that you got the 40-inch light bar installed on the Chevy Colorado, let's talk about the wiring. The M&R dual function light bar is white main light as well as Amber DRL feature. The light bar itself comes with 3 wires. There's a positive for the white light, there's a ground, and there's a positive for the Amber DRL feature. So depending which wire gets the power is what function of the light bar that's going to be activated. For this project, I'm going to go ahead and use a generic wiring harness we got on Amazon. M&R does not sell wiring harness. We're going to include the link in the description of the video. Let's go through it and see what it entails. So you have 2 separate relays, one for every power source. From the relay, you have a power and a ground that goes to the battery, and then you have two bundles of wires. One of the bundles goes to the light bars themselves, and you can connect up to two in here. And you can see they're based on the colors of the wiring is what power source is going to be provided for what light bar. I'm going to show you exactly how I wire this. The last end of the wiring harness is the actual controller. It is on double-sided tape, and you have to take it inside the cab. I usually do through the firewall, and it offers two buttons, so that way you can use the two functions independently. Let's go inside the cab, and I'm going to show you where I'm going to go through the firewall. To kind of show you a location where I went through the firewall, I went to the right of the steering column. I punctured a hole in the rubber garment with a kitchen knife, and then what I usually do, I like to stick needle nose pliers in there, so that way I can feed the wire from the inside of the engine bay, and I can drag it in here with a needle nose. So let me show you the spot where it comes out in the engine bay, and that way I'll show you how I drag the control wire inside the cab. So now that we've inserted our long needle nose pliers from the inside of the cab, if you look down here next to the steering column, you'll be able to see the needle nose there. What we're going to do, we're not going to fit the whole module inside the cab through the firewall. We're going to separate the harness and just do this adapter. When this is inside the cab, we'll be able to reconnect it and then mount the remote.
Oh, hold on. Okay, clamp. Nope, open. Clamp again. Okay, let's try that. Yeah, go.
See, and now that I got it on the inside of the cab, I'm just going to pull through it, and we're going to go ahead and reconnect the button. So I'm going to go ahead and click this back in. And now we have a button inside the cab. Now we're back into the engine bay. It was a very tight squeeze, and you probably will need somebody to feed you the wire through, so that way you can pull it through the firewall. The only thing that's left here is to connect the positive and negative from the wiring harness and connect the light bar to the power supply. And that's pretty much it. And let's do it. So first thing I want to do, I'm going to do the positive terminal. I'm going to unscrew this bolt, not all the way, just enough to fit the eyelet through. And I'm going to put the red terminal here, right underneath, point it down, and tighten it back up. Okay, so this is done. And now same thing for the negative terminal. We're going to use this bolt here, slide this through, and tighten it back up. So now we have power and ground to the wiring harness. So the only thing that's left is going to be to connect the light bars to the power wires, and that's it. I'm going to do a little edit to the plan. I'm going to go ahead and wire this underneath to the driver's side. So in order to do that, I'm just going to take off the top bolts. I'm going to peel the grill back, and we're going to go ahead and slide the wire through, and I'll use a few zip ties to keep it in place. Let's see, we can zip tie it to here, so that way it doesn't interfere with the locking mechanism. I'm going to throw a few zip ties here as well, so that way the wire doesn't move around much. Okay, this is good. I'll do one more on here. So a total of 3 zip ties. Now I'm going to reinsert all the bolts that we have taken out in the previous step in order to feed the wire underneath the grill. Just a reminder, there's a total of 6. So now the last step of this process is to connect the light bar power wires to the wiring harness. The wiring harness is way too long, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and clip it off. I'm going to clip the rest off because we're going to be connecting it all in here next to the battery. Now let me take off the shrink wrap and we have 3 wires that are exposed. There's a red, a black, and a white. So we're gonna go from the light bar, we're gonna go red to red, black to black, and white to blue. And that's gonna give us the power to the light bars. Let's start crimping. Just like mentioned earlier, we're gonna go red to red. So now that we did the red, we're gonna go black to black. And then the last one is blue to white. So here's the moment of truth. Just to summarize, red to red, black to black, and blue to white. And let me go ahead and hit some switches. So now we're gonna go ahead and test the lights. We're gonna go ahead and do switch number 1.
Amber DRL.
That's the Amber DRL. And switch number 2 is going to be
The white.
the white light. Now that we know everything works perfectly, we're gonna go ahead and zip tie all the wires so that way they're nice and neat in the engine bay, and we're gonna mount the controller inside the cab. We're also going to go ahead and waterproof these connections. These are waterproof shrink wrappable connectors, so when you apply heat to it, they're gonna shrivel up and create a nice seal. The button itself, you can actually put it in any position that you want. I personally like this one, where it'll be tucked away behind all the trim panels. Thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully that was an easy install. If you have any questions, definitely put it in the comments below.